changes, and the summary of the book is set in the 1890s, recapping how the World Fair went for the creator Daniel Burnham. And then also it talks about how H.H. Holmes, the notorious serial killer, used this fair for his own ideas of what he wanted to do with these people. One tip I have for you is because it is so long and there's two different perspectives of the story, I suggest you like keep a character list and like write down all the timelines of everybody just so that you can keep track of everything. My quote for this summary is quite long. So, in Chicago at the end of the 19th century, amid the smoke of the industry and the clatter of trains, there lived two men. Both handsome, both blue-eyed, both unusually adept to their chosen skills. Each embodied an element of the great dynamic that characterized the rush of America towards the 20th century. One was an architect, the builder of America's most important structures, among them the Flatiron Building in New York City and Union Station in Washington, D.C. The other was a murderer, the most prolific in history, a harbinger of an American archetype, the urban serial killer. Although the two never met, at least not formally, their fates were linked by a single magical event, one largely fallen from modern recollection, but that in its time was considered to possess a transformative power nearly equal to that of the Civil War. So, this kind of is just like a note that the author, Eric Larson, is trying to tell us that like what the book is about and like why he chose these people, because it had like such a great effect on Chicago during this time that it was very important for him to write about it. Teresa, you can talk about your book.
I read The Book Speak by Laurie Anderson, and this is about a girl named Melinda. She's an outcast. It's a break from her beginning of freshman year of high school to the end of her freshman year of high school. And so the book talks about a little bit how before the school year started, she went to a party and she ended up calling the cops. And so she lost all of her friends because she busted her own party she was at. And the reason why she called the cops was because she got raped. And so the story is talking about how she's all alone by herself because nobody knows that she ended up getting raped, and that's why she called the cops. And so this story goes until she like speaks out. And so my quote is, "You have a big mouth, don't you know it? Rachel blew me off at prom, giving me some bullshit story about how I raped you. You know it's a lie. I never raped anybody. I don't have to. You want it just as bad as I did, but your feelings got hurt. So you started spreading lies, and now every girl in the school is talking about me, like I'm some pervert. You've been spreading that bullshit story for weeks. What's wrong with you, ugly? You jealous? Can't get a date?" So this is the person who raped her, Andy Evans. And right now, he was dating Rachel, which was one of Melinda's ex-best friends, before like when she got the cops at the party. And so at prom, Rachel went with Andy, and she told Rachel, the first person she ever told, that she got raped by Andy, and she believed him, or believed her. So then she broke up with him, and that's how the story went downhill, and that's where she learned. That's like the turning point where she learned that she needed to speak up for herself.
After the break, you'll learn about the common themes between our two stories.
So our theme is everyone needs someone to lean on.
So, my serial killer Holmes, he really needed somebody that he could trust and like look after all the day-to-day business when he wasn't there, murdering other people. So he found Peitzel, and here's my quote. Holmes and Peitzel seemed to have a very close relationship, close enough at least for Holmes to do Peitzel a costly favor. Peitzel was arrested in Indiana for attempting to pass forged checks. Holmes posted bail and forfeited the amount when Peitzel, as planned, failed to return for trial. If you analyze this, it clearly shows that Peitzel needed Holmes and Holmes needed Peitzel in order for them to like do business with each other and really just like not be alone in this very harsh time.
My quote is, "No crime in my studio. It ruins the supplies. Salt, you know Saline? It etches like acid. He sits on the stool next to me and hands back my tree. You get an A+. You worked hard on this. He hands me a box of tissues. You've been through a lot, haven't you?" And so this is it's Melinda's art teacher, Mr. Friedman, talking to her, and he hands back her tree, which is her art project, and she's like throughout the story, her tree has changed depending on how she is then, like mentally stable, and so this is the first time anyone's ever reached out to her, being like, oh, like you've been through a lot, like you can talk about it, I'm here for you.
Okay, so our definition of a classic is something that like is very timeless and it can be used for like any kind of situation, whether it be from like one end of the spectrum to another, just anything in between. And then in my book, The Devil in the White City, I believe yes, it is a classic, just because it talks about like not well-known events and like goes really in depth with like the fair being built and then also like the state of H.H. Holmes. So the quote that I use is on page 109, and it says, "I was born with the devil in me," he wrote. "I cannot help the fact that I was a murderer no more than the poet can help the inspiration to sing." So I think that's really important to like explain how it is a classic, just because that could just like be used for anything. Like you can't help the fact that you're the way that you are, just as long as you like own it, I guess. So then I want to talk about like how mental illness like kind of played a role in Holmes's mind, because he just like didn't, he knew what he was doing, but he knew that it was wrong, but he still like had to do it. He had that like drive in him to do it, and he just couldn't stop it. So that's kind of like with any like mental illness, like you can't control it and it just kind of like happens and there's nothing that you can like really do to stop it. So I feel like by like having this book, it like really exhibits the fact that there are like mental illnesses and there's nothing that you can do about it except for like do your best.
So I did the book Speak again, as always, and I believe that is classic because in the book it talks about the problem of rape, and rape is a very universal topic, and it always happens. It's happened for decades, and it will happen for decades more. And my quote is, "You have to know what you stand for, and not just what you stand against." In the book, Melinda, she only knew that she wasn't happy and she was lonely from when she called the cops, and so she wasn't happy about the fact that she was raped, and she needed to know why. Like, her problem was like she was like, why me? And you can't be like that. You have to go out there and talk to people and figure it out yourself before you can go out and blame others for other things. And so she just needed to find herself. So she just needed to prove to everyone that she is strong enough to be successful and that she can have friends, she can talk to people, and she isn't wrong. She never did anything wrong. She doesn't deserve being raped, but she needs to learn how to stand up for herself and fight for what she believes in and not just because everyone else is fighting against it. My question is, what does the character's emotions and behavior reveal about their psychological state? And so Melinda's behavior and emotions were isolating herself from others by never talking. She was suicidal and anxious. She would cut herself, bite her lip to make herself bleed. She had started to gain weight. She couldn't care for herself. She had trouble sleeping. She had bad grades. And they were learning the Scarlet Letter in English class. And this is what she said. "I wonder if Hester tried to say no. She was kind and quiet. We would get along. I could see us living in the woods. Her wearing an A, and me wearing an S maybe. S for silent, for stupid, for scared, for silly, for shame." So in the book, after when they were learning about the Scarlet Letter, she said all those things about her, about the S, and those were all different symbols about how she felt about herself. And she said in the quote, "I wonder if Hester tried to say no." And she said that because Melinda, when she was being raped, she was scared to say no. The whole time she was like, oh, I need to say no, I need to say no. But she never found the strength in her to say no. It was always in the tip of her tongue. And she wondered when Hester had kid, because she committed adultery or whatever, if she could say no, if she could have stood up for herself, or if Hester tried and it never worked. Through the symbols, like Melinda showed, just like the book in the Scarlet Letter, she showed the different aspects of her life and how she felt about herself through all the S's that if she would have been friends with Hester, they would have had. And she said that Hester was a quiet kid, and she related that to herself because Melinda was a quiet kid. And this reveals that she is depressed and has trauma from being raped. And one of the things she does do though is she copes with it through her art. Throughout the story, she's doing like a tree sculpture, painting, like it changes, and the tree like really depicts on how she is feeling. Sometimes it'll be like a beautiful tree and it'll be okay, and then other times it looks really dead, and it just changes throughout how she's in her mind.
So the question that I did is, what do the characters' emotions and behaviors reveal about their psychological states? So the quote I used for this is, "The panic came as it always did. Holmes imagined Anna crumpled in the corner. If he chose, he would rush to the door, throw it open, hold her in his arms, and weep with her at the tragedy just barely averted. He could do it at the last minute or in the last few seconds. He could do that. Or he could just open the door and look in on Anna and give her a big smile, just to let her know that this was no accident. Then close the door again, slam it, and return to his chair to see what just might happen. This was the time he most craved. It brought him a period of sexual release that seemed to last for hours, even though in fact the screams and pleading faded rather quickly. He filled the vault with gas just to be sure." So I feel like this has like a really big like indicator of what his mind like really goes through and which psychological state he's in, just because like he goes through the different choices of like how he could like basically torture Anna with like, I could open up the door and just tell her like this was no mistake, like you're gonna die now. And then he also is like, oh, I could save killing her for later and just like open it up, let her out, and then kill her later. And then he also is able to like change his like behavior around different people, because he'll do whatever he has to do in order for people to like him. So like he'll start talking about a topic that the other person likes, or he'll like do something for the person to make them like him. I know. Okay, so like along with the choices, he like continues doing that throughout the book. He will like try to figure out like what he wants to do with all these people, because he like tries to just play with other people's minds and like with their feelings. The thing that he does is like play with the other people's like psychology inside their mind and stuff, because at one point he was like literally moving around this woman's children and also the woman just to like play with their minds and like make them miss each other, even though they were literally like a street away from each other. So that just shows like how he likes playing with other people's minds just to like torture them, and like really just shows how like messed up he is in the head, and how he like doesn't even have any remorse for anybody and just does what he thinks he has to do to be happy for himself.
So right now this is the a la carte section of that paper that we're supposed to complete, and yeah, we'll just wait for Mr. Dickman to walk by and then we'll stop.
No, just keep going. It'd be a quality interruption.
It would be different if you changed like a specific thing in the book, like the main character's gender, or like if they were poor or if they're rich, like anything different. But I chose to do like 3 different topics to talk about. So I talked about the location, about like where he lived. So he lived in Chicago. H.H. Holmes lived in Chicago during the World Fair. So because of this, there was like a lot more people to choose from, to like talk to, and like murdered nonetheless. And then because it was like so many people like so condensed in this one area, he was able to like get away with murdering these people, because everybody would just be like, oh, you know that one girl? And they'd be like, no, I don't know that person, because there were just so many people to keep track of. So then, if he moved to like a more rural area, like let's say we just like dropped him in Iowa, just in the middle of nowhere, on a farm, and then all of a sudden he like murdered some person, they'd be like, oh, where'd Susie go? And they'd be like, that guy murdered her. And then, so it'd be a lot more suspicious, because in the city he was also able to just like write back to the families, because he always did it to women, like young women who just moved to Chicago, don't know what they're doing in life. So then he would just like write back to their family saying like, oh yeah, she moved off to Paris. So if you did that in the rural area, they know exactly where she was because they know exactly where they're all at all times because everybody knows everybody. The second thing that I did differently was if the time period was different. So like back then there was only like a newly developed police force, so they weren't very trained, they didn't know a lot of stuff, and then they didn't have like a lot of like communication between different stations, so it was all just like based off of one place, didn't have much communication, wasn't very much training, so that's why he was also able to get away with it because everybody was just like, oh, nobody would ever murder this person, like that's not like them, that can't happen. So that's one of the things that I do is like now we have a better police force, we have like better communication between like stations and stuff. You get a lot more stuff done. There's more like forensic evidence that you can like pull from a crime scene and like all that other kind of stuff. And then also along with before he would just like write letters or whatever, but now we have like phones and stuff and different like ways to communicate long distance. So he couldn't just like write to somebody and say, oh no, they're off to Paris. They could just like call up the person that's dead and be like, oh, it's wrong. So then that would like lead to more suspicion towards Holmes than there was. And then the last thing that I chose to talk about is like if you were poor, because H.H. Holmes was a very rich man because he was able to like scam everybody. So like let's say that he wasn't as like eccentric and very like talkative to everybody, then he wouldn't be able to like get away with scamming all those people and wasn't able to like get all that money and like save it for himself. So then like if you were poor, he wouldn't be able to like bribe all the people that he talked to into murdering. He wouldn't be able to like give them anything and bribe them to be like, oh yeah, it's fine, don't do anything, it's fine.
Here's a pearl necklace. Let me murder you.
Exactly.
Except for I can't afford that, so here's nothing. Let me murder you.
Exactly. So like he was also able to like charm everybody. Like he'd always dress really well. He like looked very nice. He had like nice blue eyes. He like wore nice
Blue eyes.
tops. So he's able to like do all that stuff to like sway women into being like, oh, he's so sweet and handsome. He could never do this to me. Ha ha ha. So if that's just like how it would all change if you were poor. And then like if you were a woman, it would be like you could still probably like bribe them with like different ways. It probably wouldn't have the same effect because like then again he wouldn't be able to like if Holmes was a girl, he wouldn't like she whatever wouldn't be able to like take the people like the guys into the dungeon and like murder them because they probably weren't strong enough. Yeah. So then just like all together, if everything was changed, Holmes wouldn't become like the most notorious killer. You would never like learned the significance of murderers. You would never have like learned about it. There would have just been like Jack the Ripper. He came before this. That's the only person you really know about. And you want to have this really notorious serial killer to look for and learn from throughout all these years.
For my question in the book Speak, I didn't bring it with me. I had it in every other shot with this one. And I did the question if the book was on the ban list and if I agreed. According to vanlibrary.com, my book Speak is on the ban list, and the reasons for it, it said it promoted premarital sex, which is wrong. It also had soft pornography, whatever that means.
Whoa.
And it was filthy, and it promoted cussing and drinking and all that stuff, but really, I disagree with that. Technically, she got raped, so that's not promoting premarital sex. It's her story about getting over that, and if you don't let someone have your story about your experiences and be able to help it helps yourself telling your story out. Keeping it in you, like, not good. So, it's helping this girl, and it's probably helping anyone else that's reading this book that relates to it and has been raped, because it's their story, and they want to hear other people and relate to them. Because that's all about life. Everyone wants to relate to someone. And, like, I related to it even, and I've never been raped, but my great-grandma, before she was married, she like got raped, had a kid, and the guy left, I don't know, and her mom made her raise the kid as her brother, and that's like how through the decades, rape has been a thing. It's just people back then would hide it, and everyone knew that this kid was my great grandma's, but except for him, he thought he was her brother, and that's horrible. Like, Melinda used Maya Angelou as like a hero, as a role model, and Maya Angelou, she's like the author of like Why the Caged Bird Sings and all that kind of stuff, and she also was raped. She like been through all that kind of stuff. That book's also banned, if you want to know. It doesn't promote premarital sex. Rape, no. I guess in the whole partying and the drinking,
Everybody does that.
not everyone does it, but it's like books. You're just gonna have to like
Get
but,
over
like,
it.
It happens, and if you're in high school and you're reading this book, you don't know that it happens. And so why wouldn't you open their eyes to that opportunity, but that problem that people have, drinking and cussing and all that kind of stuff, like that happens.
Definitely expect people to know what to do when they're not told what to do.
Yeah, like she never learned what to do because she never had a book like this to read, to like know, oh, it's good to speak out. It's not always just relevant, and that's why we need to be learning it in schools or stuff like this book, because we are learning how to deal in certain situations that the school, it doesn't teach us. It doesn't teach us about this stuff. This is like things, situations you put in. School just teaches you about facts. You need to also learn about life, and this book is teaching you about that. And compared to Colligan.com, they back me up. They say that Melinda is just an average girl who struggles, and she's trying to find her identity. She's trying to get closer to her family because she's pushing them away. And it's about people deal with that with their family. Sometimes they lose each other and they gotta find their way back. And it also talks about, it's like a girl who's in high school and she's trying to learn like high school. Like, it's so much different than middle school. And I feel like sometimes teachers don't realize that, but when I moved here, I knew no one. So Melinda here, she knows people, but she has no friends. She couldn't just walk up to them and make friends with them again because they already know her. And like, rape happens to 1 in every 6 women will end up being raped, and they're victims, and they need to be able to tell their story. So if this book can't happen, how are they going to be able to tell their story? They can't tell their story if they're not allowed to write a book about it. The author, she went through this, and this is her book portraying her life. Like, it feels so close to this character Melinda because she went through some of the same things, and she is just telling her story. So if you can't tell your story, then what's the point of America? It's freedom of speech. You're supposed to be able to talk about yourself. And if you can't do that because your book's banned, that's dumb. Like, another reason why my book isn't on the ban, it should not be on the ban list, is Sarah L. Moore from the Bloom's Literature Criticism Critique thing. Yeah. She states that Melinda is a confused victim of sexual abuse. Melinda has a believable story for a freshman girl. Also has feelings of alienation, depression, shame, loss, and victimhood. And that's why it should not be a banned book, because it's about this girl that's depressed, that she's ashamed of herself, and she's been through a loss of friends, of everything. She's just lost everything at one moment, and she's a victim. And victims should hear their story out because they deserve a chance to be heard.
For my additional resource, I choose to go along with the same question I did, is how it'd be different kind of. And Publishers Weekly actually did like an interview with Erica Larson where like they asked him like a series of questions, and one of the questions they asked was, were you surprised at how long it took for people to realize these disappearances were connected to homes? Because like I said earlier, like there wasn't a lot of like police, and like they didn't do very well. And like Eric Larson actually like says something like that. He says, okay, like in the book it says, okay, certain things we pay attention to, the disappearance of a son or daughter of a merchant prince, but otherwise we'll take note. That's all. Because like Eric Larson described Chicago as like being very bustly and like very busy because like there's trains going in and out. It's brand new systems. There's lots of buildings being built. It's just like chaos all over. So like police didn't have time. They weren't experienced enough. And he's just like,
went on about how difficult it would have been and like how like Holmes was super suspicious because he built like this whole entire big hotel and all these girls are disappearing, but he also backed it up with there was nothing that could have been done. So there's like he made sure that there was no blame being put on anybody, which was very nice of him to say.
Banned book highlight. Speak by Lori Halsey Anderson. The Call Again. September 28, 2018. http://www.k-state:/009/2018/20/band-book-highlight-speak-by-Lori-Halsey-Anderson/period April 12, 2019 period hidden quotation marks speak period quotation marks again in italics band library period band library comma March 13th 2018 comma www.bandlibrary.com/podcast/2018/3/7/speak-by-Lori-Halsey-Anderson period April 11th 2019 period Rotor comma Martin quotation marks the devil in the white city period quotation marks in italics Bloom's literature period Bloom's literature comma 2002 comma http://online.infobase.com/hrc/search/details/12 question mark article ID =$5621331 and symbol Q lowercase q =sign again the parentheses 20 devil parentheses parent sign it's not parentheses percent sign 20 in percent sign 20 the percent sign 20 white percent sign 20 city percent sign 20 Eric percent sign 20 Larson period April 12th 2019.
You're saying out everything in that link? So I gotta read
What
that.
it said on the thing you have to have the URL.
So you went through and said every single thing on it?
I'm on my last
Show
one.
it.
No, this is our work
Okay, no, I like this.
Well, now
Keep
it's
on
the
the
video.
last one.
Keep going.
Fourth one. More, comma, Sarah, quotation marks, Melinda, period, quotation marks, in italics, Bloom's literature, period, Bloom's literature, comma, 2008, comma, http://online.infobase.com/hrc/search/details/12 question mark article ID =94252 and sign Q speak percent 20 by percent 20 Lori percent 20 Anderson die April 12 2019